Hi everyone, delonewolf here. Welcome back to sisi, the test server for EVE Online. Welcome to another mass test. Today is August 18th and this is actually going to be a pretty important test. I think the idea is to test the stability of the client and to make sure that there are no major bug crashes in this one. CCP Habakkuk just put the channel in moderated mode, so we should be starting any moment now. And I just joined Fleet W as well. They still, from what I read here, they'll still need to start Fleet X, but I'm sure that we'll get started. And so far on the experience, it's actually been a lot better. So the patching went pretty smoothly. I could start right away and I came into the game. I'm not noticing any real lag. Performance seems to be pretty decent with 310 people in local already. Another part of the test should be the new effects, but once again, honestly, I'm not seeing that many major effect changes. Over here though, you can see, that's energy neutralizer. Look at that, it's actually pretty beautiful. Looks a bit more like a spiral, and then we've got probably energy transfer going in here. So all of that is looking pretty good so far. And let's see if it holds up during the rest of the test. Of course, I'm in the Hyperion. Just grabbed the battleship that I still had lying around here. It actually does have a point and a web, and it's pretty much focused on catching something and then being able to apply damage from very short range. But fall off range 16, optimal range 4,500. So yeah, definitely short range. Brawling is the idea here. With ogres I can actually dish out quite a bit of DPS. And so now we're just gathering up here on the gate and waiting for the whole mass test to start. We've got quite a few titans here already. So over here we've got CCP Lebowski in a Ragnar. Oh, they're actually all CCP then, because this is CCP Antiquarian in a Leviathan as well. And then of course we've got a couple dreads, a few carriers. I saw a Nyx, yep, here we go. Nyx Wave Edition, really cool looking. And down there's another one as well, right here. So we've got a couple super carriers here as well, some carriers too. And yeah, we'll just have to wait for everyone to arrive. You can see they're trickling in here, 340 in local almost now. And so Fleet W, I'm not going to join voice because that could just basically overwhelm a little bit on the audio side. So we're just going to stick to what's happening in the mass testing channel and try to follow the commands there. A little bit of a drop right here, look at that. So zooming out a bit. Oh, someone's actually targeting me in a nightmare, but that's okay. Normally there's no PvP at the moment, so let's hope that they don't bump me out of range. Well, they're actually slowly bumping me out of range for the gate, so let's try and reapproach that a little bit. Here I am. And it's getting more and more crowded. More carriers here, another Thanatos. A Gila here as well, cool. Or a Gila. And then a Golem, really cool looking ship as well. So I had a little bit of like what's happening on the client, but that seems to be fixed by now. That's looking quite good. What do we have arriving here? Orthrus, yep. 131 in Fleet W, 355 in local. I'm pretty sure that they're actually working on Fleet X right now. And anything happening here? Patience is a virtue, and ooh, that's even more. Couple of phoenixes, actually 4 of them warping in at the same time. Pretty cool. And even more dread. So again, the pulse bash, it should go pretty smoothly if we don't crash again, which is what happened during the last test. But On the last test we had a warning before we started that there was still a nasty bug in the client, and that probably hit me. But for this one so far it's all looking pretty good. So more dreads coming in again. 356 in local. And that nightmare is interested in me. We are meeting in FDMLG on the gate to XBV. That's how a mass test usually starts. So let's just slowly orbit the gate here. Now I'm actually behind the warping, so I should be decently safe from bumping. I'm gonna stop right here. Macariel. That's probably... Oh, Proteus, yeah, a couple of tech trees, that's always a good idea. And here is my stalker, Kopaka Newton. Is still targeting me and moving behind me ominously in his nightmare. Well, we've got more ships coming in all the time. That's looking pretty good. 382. If we have more than 400, that becomes a pretty big test. 150 in fleet. So a 50-50 distribution will get pretty close to that, I think. And yeah, look at that, a little bit of a performance lowering again, and back up to 60. So I'm not sure what's the cause of it. Of course, there's more and more people coming on grid, so it's normal that that has a little bit of an effect on the performance. But I can just feel it when I try to rotate the camera. Right now it's pretty smooth, but when something is wrong you can feel it just hanging a little bit, and that's when I know that something is actually up. So even more Archon, yeah, Moros as well, more and more ships coming in. You can see it's getting really crowded around the gate. And that will, of course, have an impact on the performance. Widow. And yet another Phoenix. So we actually have quite a few Phoenixes here, which actually are pretty cool with their missiles. And a couple carriers. So here, yeah, we can see well, the fleet was maybe it's actually the fleet. I just noticed that the fleet window was flickering a little bit when I felt the client hanging just a touch. So it is possible, of course, that it's actually additions to the fleet on grid or something like that that is causing the client to hang a little bit. 403 in local, so this is actually looking like a pretty big test, but I think that's really good considering we are here to test performance, to test the stability of the latest build. So hopefully all of this goes well, and now we're just gonna have to wait for CCP Habakkuk to start the test. So more dreads coming in. $411 in local, 165 in the fleet. And hi, welcome here on Singularity for this mass test. So hopefully we'll get a countdown pretty soon. Hopefully, now it's still Kopaka that is targeting me. Hopefully he doesn't get any ideas here. We are all meeting at the gate and we'll start shortly. So few people that were probably still fitting their ships coming in here. Even more dreadnoughts. Actually it's really a lot of dreadnoughts for this test, so pretty good when you have to take down a large boss. Time to target the gate so that I'm ready for the jump. And here we go. As always, if we have real bugs, we can always send those in a bug report with F12. If I see something really strange, I have to remember to actually take a screenshot this time, because last time I completely forgot to do that because I was so busy with the recording, but I had a very weird bug happen then, and a screenshot would have probably helped CCP out a lot, but let's try and do better this time. Let's get our testing hat on. Last time we experienced quite a few crashes, which should be fixed now. Please shout if you still get a client crash. So, okay, while we have a Titan coming in, and we can actually go straight into mass questions if we do experience a crash. Okay, that's a nice way of doing it, but hopefully we won't see any of those. And so now we've got 3 Titans. Huge amount of dreads, honestly, they still keep coming. And 424 in local. Well, that's definitely on the larger scale here for the mass tests that we've seen so far. Fleet 169, so understood. No PvP, so normally you should be safe. There's, well, most of the time I would say about half the tests there is someone that actually uses smart bombs or something like that. So taking the smallest frigates is not always the best option, but usually people are here for the tests and they help as best they can, so it's definitely not a major problem. And other than a few of the new effects visible here so far, let's get completely zoomed out. Let's see if we can still, yeah, we can still get up to 60 frames per second if we're fully zoomed out. With this much on grid, of course, if we zoom in, it's actually a little bit worse. I may wanna, before we get into the jump, go for the hide all brackets. Then we go from like 45 to maybe 50 frames per second, a slight increase, but it's not that huge. So that's good to know. And now with a bit of luck, we'll get a countdown and then we'll try to jump into XBV, which is the first part of the test. So here is the testing fleet, or I should say the 2 testing fleets, 432 in local, 168 in fleet W. Do not jump yet, and yet I'm hearing the gate flash a few times. So a gate jump is, of course, I think one of the hardest things for the server to do, because it has to put everyone back in the new system. It has to, the server has to get all of the skills that the player has, and then just try. What the hell? And why do I see signals going off now and more gates going off? In 10. All right. And so yeah, it's definitely one of the parts of the game that's going to be most stressful. 3, 2, 1, and once I see jump, I press jump, and I'm actually too far off. No, I'm not. Let's try jumping again. Well, first time that I can't that's weird. I am within 2,500 meters of the gate and unable to move. That's... no, I can move now. Alright. This is the weirdest jump attempt that I've seen so far. And if I click on jump, session change already in progress. So that's all the signals going off, and I am actually going through the gate, but that was weird. That was a little bit strange. .158 seconds, that feels pretty normal, but this tie-dye at 50%, that's not what we usually see. So I would say this jump, not the best I've had. And then I should be landing with quite a few people on grid already. Here the grid is loading. And well, at least I made it through. Once I spammed the jump button on the targeted item, on the selected item box, that did work out, but felt a little bit weird. So now we have to align to the beacon post-warping, so we'll go for distance, post-warping, align to, activate my damage control just in case, now we can get back on short distance, and then I can warp to local 343, fleet 174. So it is a pretty big test, but a line, and there goes at least a dozen ships off the warp who are going to start the post bash a little bit prematurely, but alright. That is one thing that CSP can't avoid. So client performance wise, at least all of this is feeling and looking pretty good. Warp to the beacon at your own range. Do not do fleet warp. The beacon is very close to the force fields. Alright, so we'll do... can I set default warp? I'm not gonna change that. We'll just do a warp within 0. I'm actually short range anyway. And there we go, everyone is in warp, or going in warp, and that was okay, a bit of a drop in performance, but nothing too major, so that seemed quite alright. Let's see exactly how close to the force field we'll end up. And the Damnation and Allegiant passing me in the warp. Here again, Stratios, Tengu. That's pretty cool, I feel. So you know stuff that does get past you because they have more speed. Apparently a Paladin, which should be as fast as me, but maybe because of his feet. And again, couple ships, Vexor, Proteus. All of them passing me, so I'll zoom out because, yeah, look at that, lovely warp outs here. That's a decent loading of the grid, I think. That's a silly bubble, but alright. And they are already halfway through shields, and most of the dreads have yet to land. So yeah, this will be a pretty fast boss bash. So I'm just going to wait it out, I think. Or should I use my ogres? Well, we'll add a little bit of damage with the ogres then, and they can't, so Well, it's been a while since I've boss bashed. I thought you could use the ogres for that, but apparently that doesn't work. Strange, and I actually take a hit. Luckily I'm in a pretty big ship, but I suspect that that's actually a smart bomb. And here we go, halfway through the shields. Now we'll get some real DPS going, of course, with all the dreads here. And let me see if I can maybe spot a firing phoenix, because I do feel that those are pretty damn cool when they do. There one goes, there's another one, and there's all those missiles flying off towards the target. I think it's actually, while it's probably considered the worst of the dreadnoughts, I think the way it fires is the coolest. Very, very nice in my opinion. Look at that, lovely volleys going in there. Shields are dropping, we're now at 43%. I'm managing, let's say, 20 frames per second when I'm zoomed in. Something like that. Let's stop my ship here for a moment. Yeah, pretty close to the bubble. And then let's also zoom out completely. Let's see if we can improve the performance. It's trying to get to 30, so 27, 25, something like that. Still a couple of warpings. Keep in mind, local is at 420, so this is actually a test with quite a lot of people. But 20 frames per second, honestly, that is a bit lower than what I'm used to. But again, if we do have 400 people firing at the post tower at the same time here, I do think it's kind of normal that we're not in the 30-35 range that we usually have. And the shields here, they are dropping really fast, 32%, so now it's just gonna go faster and faster as more damage comes online. And we have a Nestor targeting me, probably for some repping. Honestly, if it's a Nestor, I'm not that worried. And yeah, a little bit of hanging. As you can see, performance dipping below 20 frames per second. Now I have to go fully zoomed out to get back above that. But at this point, of course, you don't really see that much anymore. Dropping to 22%. And a warp scramble attempt, which is a little bit out of place, but alright. And that's quite an unusual effect. On some of those Leviathans. Look at that. That's almost as big as the post shield. That's quite huge. While the shields are going down fast. 8%. So I thought that could be something like a micro jump drive, but they don't really seem to be jumping. So this is a very weird effect that we're seeing here. If you know what it is, feel free to post that in the comments. I have no idea what module it is those guys are activating to create that type of effect. It looks really cool though. And there goes the structure. As you can see, that ticks down in 2 to 4%, so that's really fast. There's a lot of dreads, so this is going quite smoothly. 20 frames per second, zoomed out. 436 in local, probably most of those on grid. So this is a decent heavy test for the performance, and so far it's looking quite good. Almost 180 in fleet as well. That's the armor gone. Now they're working on the structure, and that's still looking quite okay. And well, it feels a little bit like I don't want to zoom in for the performance, not to risk anything, but of course everyone is activating a lot of stuff, and so it's all part of the testing process. So zoomed in, as you can see here, we're gonna drop to like 15 frames per second or something like that. Zoomed out, we can still get to 20. While the boss falls, 1, 2, 3, well, here we get the explosion coming. So sometimes you have a really big delay between the destruction of the boss and the explosion, but this felt pretty good, pretty natural. So that's okay. Normally the next step is to align to point dot, so we'll already do that. Oh, and that's why I actually had a lot on the overview. All of the brackets still in space because I was in the general tab. Okay. Scoop drones, well, I didn't bother with all those dreads, honestly. That little DPS that my battleship would bring is not really worth it. And without shooting, look at that, back up to 45 frames per second on the grid here, zoomed out. So you can clearly see that it is 400 people shooting at targets, doing stuff, giving instructions to the server. That is actually having a big impact on your performance. And once they stop shooting, for the most part, now target random ships and use various remote modules. Unfortunately, I don't have much except a web, so I could web him, I think. Let's see. The web effect, I'm not really seeing that as being changed a lot, but it's not too heavy. Maybe I should also use the points. Let me see. So now I'm looking at the Phoenix. Let's look at myself. Maybe take a little bit more distance and then see if a long point. God damn it! Someone ECM me, I guess. If a long point on a battleship gives me a visible effect, but I'm not really seeing it. Again, the web, that's classical, but I thought there was supposed to be a point effect. I'm just not really seeing it. So there you go, that's me, that's the dread. But not seeing, oh yep, there you go, a very slight, very faint. Here it is, right there. Well, it could be the engine, so that is pretty cool. But here is the actual warp scrambling effect. I hope you can see that on the recording. It's not easy to show it to you guys. I'm trying to, maybe if I get through the actual dreadnought here, you should have seen it. So that's very faint, but it is pretty cool. There it is. So that was the warp scrambling effect. You really have to go looking for it though. So it's not that easy to actually spot it. Alright, let's get back on the aligning to point dots. Let's also disable that so you can actually warp off. And maybe take a look around here at some of the other effects. So you'll have energy transfer, I think that's those. You've got targets painting, which is a lot more visible. The red, I think, has changed, and I think it's quite okay. For the effect, you've got some shield transfers, that'll be those blue ones, and then if you've got something greenish for armor transfer, right there, probably the very long beams coming from the Amar, the Archon there, Amar carrier. So it's still pretty overwhelming, as you can see here, especially the I think it's a sensor booster effect. I still think that's way too big, way too overwhelming. But the other ones have, I think, been toned down just a little bit, and so it's a little bit easier on the client when it comes to the remote reps and things like that. There's another explosion on probably post defenses. but it's looking quite good. So we're still averaging 40 frames per second, something like that, when I'm not looking around with the camera. So this is doing its job quite nicely. Stop the modules as soon as you checked that the graphical effects are shown properly. Well, it took me a while to actually see the warp disruption effect, but everything seemed to be in order, so that's pretty good. And we've got warp scrambling. Well, that's possibly part of the tests. And 403 remaining. So I'm not sure if that means that we actually lost close to 10% of the people on a crash or something like that. It is possible. Let's see if there's anyone. So something seems to cause my entire skybox to turn white. That's probably a bugged explosion that happens from time to time, but the good news is I'm not seeing crashes here, so that looks pretty good. Align to point dot, that's done. Let's select it, get the distance off. Fleet W, jump to point dot and prepare a gate camp, so we can definitely do that. And there we go, leaving the grid. As you can see right there, that's that performance drop. That is still pretty heavy. I think especially when a lot of people were still using their remote reps, their effects there, that is actually still something that, just like a jump from system to system, leaving and entering grid is actually pretty hard on both the server and the client. So here though, we're back at 60 frames per second. We're in warp with an Armageddon, who is coming to join me in formation now. That always looks really cool. Armageddon Navy issue. And there's Cloud Ring, and here is the gate with a lot of stuff landing on it, including carriers, bar guests. And then we get more stuff coming in. And welcome to Poitot. Yep. Any other gates in here? We've got XBV and yeah, F67E, which normally is where there could be an added part to the test this week, which could be shooting at some NPCs. We'll see. I usually do die pretty quickly when it comes to the PvP fight, but I have a stealth bomber ready. So depending on how everything goes, I might just try to go back and check out the NPC fight as well. Now Fleet X is coming to the gate. I should probably start moving a little bit. I think that could be a good idea. Maybe I'll take him as an anchor. Activate damage control, and I will try and grab some stuff that's close by. Here's a Tengu. Neutral Tengu. Let's see if he gets targeted by anyone. There's a bubble. So, and that is some looting on a neutral pilgrim. Tester McTest. there's the Dominic's. Maybe I'll orbit him so that we have a Galente team going here. That does look really, really cool. New Dominic's should come out with the next patch. Awesome. So some stuff is blowing up already. Now they're probably just gonna be what? That seems like something big. That's actually an Archon being targeted. That's a lot of target painters, a lot of looting happening there as well. That's pretty beautiful though, when you've got a lot of missiles hitting the carrier all over the place. Really nice. Trapped and unable to flee. He's trying to edge out of the bubble and get ready, so I'll zoom out a little bit because that can be pretty heavy again on the performance. We'll keep an eye on the Archon. Maybe from here then. Oh, I lost my anchor it seems. Alright then. Orbiting the Nagelfar. Zooming out. Maybe I'll target... Oh, there it goes. That's the Archon turned into a wreck. And anyone that's neutral, of course, if you come through in Poitot and Fleet W is deployed, that'll just be a target for them. And here we go, Fleet X should be coming in, so now anything... he's actually called as a primary. Let's see if I can... Nope, he was blown up. Just left Poitot. Ouch, they've got more Titans than we do. So that's their whole cap fleet that jumps right on top of me. That's pretty cool. Let's see if there's anything. Phoenix, maybe a Scimitar. That could actually be, if I can catch it, that could be good to put some pressure on that. Let's see, to help my team, that is. Get the ogres out. Try to engage. Performance, of course, now it's dropping even lower, so I'm gonna have to zoom out here. Also gonna fire preemptively. And he's actually primary pretty quickly there, so that's good. Next up here we've got a rattlesnake that's close by. Unfortunately, I'm probably going to be targeted pretty soon. That's some smart bombs that are hitting my ogres as well. But here we go, working on the rattlesnake. And that's the fight from zoomed out, where I can get 14 frames per second, something like that. Let's see if I can tighten my orbit, because that guy is apparently still trying to escape from me. Now that's better, so let's cut the micro warp drive, keep one eye on his speed, one eye on the performance. No tie-dye to my surprise, 340 people, and I think that's the bug that that person was talking about. That's an explosion bug. And that's again the explosion bug, so now we are completely white, and there we go, it's gone. So we are hitting that rattlesnake, we're not being hit back, but I'm bouncing off of something, it looks like, so we're just gonna burst the micro warp drive again. And yep, here is the test fight. So far, honestly, performance, crash-wise, this is feeling pretty smoothly. This is what you can expect, of course. Ouch, that's a big chunk of damage there. Don't like that. He's fully wrapped up again. Don't like that either. But we'll just, well, we'll keep going. Ouch, that's really some heavy hitting that's happening here. So I'm going to have to start off my wrapping, but I'm afraid that will be gone pretty soon. Because we're getting hit pretty hard. Of course, keep in mind, over here is the entire enemy cap fleet. So unfortunately, I was pretty much on the wrong side of the gate. And that's going to cost me. I'm being neutered now as well. That was all my cap gone. So I've got maybe 1 or 2 rep cycles left in me. And then that will be it. While unfortunately that rattlesnake is being actively repaired. So hopefully I can just buy a bit of time for my fleet, for fleet W, and hopefully this can help them. But that's going to be it for my Hyperion Aliastra edition. God love the black. We're getting punished quite hard for choosing the wrong side of the gate. And let me see here. Thanatos also, so he's got his drones or fighters on me. That's really not looking too good, but we don't have the grid completely unloading when I'm zooming or things like that. Cap gone, so I can't even fire anything off anymore. I can just have my ogres do that little bit of damage. We are now in structure, and can I find the gate here somewhere? That would be nice. So that, there it is. Let's try to take the gate as a selected item. So that's my Hyperion gone, and now let's see if I can actually get through there. That's lovely Doomsday, with probably a carrier exploding. And let's see if I can actually slow boat through the gate or not. But here is the fight. Performance, yeah, now we're down to 11 frames per second. Zoomed out, I can maybe up it to 12, 13, but it's really quite on the edge with this many people using weapons on each other, using electronic warfare on each other. This is really hard for the server. So the fact that we're still pretty stable, that I feel decently confident to like look around a little bit, I think that this is quite okay. It's definitely a step up from the last test and 2 tests ago. We can see more and more stuff just being destroyed. We are slowly approaching the XBV gate. And yeah, just enjoy the rest of the fight, I would say. Of course, the big ships here are doing quite a number on the rest. So there we've got some dread fire on carriers and super carriers. Right here, that one is really taking a beating. That Aeon here. And we are trying. Yeah, we're slowly approaching the gate. I may yet make it through. We'll see. But with more Titans on the other side, I do think that Fleet X has the edge on us. As more things get destroyed, you can see quite a few lovely big wrecks here. 4,000 meters off the gate, the missiles flying, buzzing around my little pod on all sides here. Just trying to survive, trying to get to the system, and we actually make it. So there we go. That's going to be it for the part of the test so far. I'm gonna see if I can join the NPC fighting, and if that does happen and I can get a recording, I'll get that for you guys. But for now, thank you very much for watching. Test successful, I would say, and I'll see you all next time.